What kids have these days. What we had. I'm so glad I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I said and did so much stupid, and there's no record of it anywhere. My kids will never have to experience the frustration of dealing with this. When it was time to watch a movie in school, legend says that the blue part could erase ink. Yeah, it couldn't erase ink. But what it could do was eat a hole through your paper. These were our virtual reality goggles. How many of you remember these, and how many discs did you have? I think I had about 15. In the 80s, we knew how to party. Mega bass. I swear the bass boost that's on radios and stuff today just does not have the same impact as the old tape players and the first Walkmans. When you were excited about pizza day at school, this is what you waited in line to eat. My school had 2 lunch lines. One line was whatever the regular lunch was, and the other one was a pizza line. No, the pizza wasn't very good, but it beat the regular lunch line. When I was a kid, this was Google. Kids these days will never know the struggle. Back off. I have a paperclip, an 80s hairstyle, and I'm not afraid to use them. Today's kids will never know the choices you had to make. Shout out to everyone whose music collection used to look like this. Which old phone did you have? I know we had 2 and 3. I don't remember us having 4 at our house. I definitely remember my grandmother having a phone that was more like 4 than 1, but it was kind of in between the 2. A kid found this in the creek and asked if it was from the Civil War. Yes, this is schools these days. Remember when our idea of a wild night out was skating in circles while a DJ played music? It's Saturday in 1999. Your friends are coming over later to stay the night. You can pick 1 movie and 2 games. That moment when just got serious. It took me a little longer to get this than it should have, but it's a pretty good throwback. It was the best part of that song, and now I have to flip the tape over. The greatest advancement in cassette tape technology, usually found in your car stereo, was when they came out with the automatic reverse, where when the tape got to the end, that the player would automatically stop and change directions and start playing the other side without having to flip it over. Today's kids will never know the struggle when you lost one of these pieces. You have a collect call from, "Hey mom, come pick me up." Do you accept the charges? Kids today will never know the struggle. You don't know pain until you ran around your grandma's house barefoot and ran up on this. When it's 1999 and Friday night is about to go off. Lip syncing to Def Leppard tape since 1985. I rented a movie, but the previous customer didn't rewind it. So many innocent lives were lost forever. This was a late 90s thing. Me. Kids today spend way too much time on their phones. Also me from 99 to 2002. Perfectly tapes favorite song off the radio. DJ talks to the last 10 seconds. Multiplayer in the 90s. Oh dear God, no. CD gets all scratched up, the player can't read it anymore. How many of you had the little CD disc repair machine? Either the one that you crank by hand, or then they come out with a motorized one, and you had a solution that you put on the disc and it would sit there and repolish the disc and polish the scratches up. That kind of worked, wasn't too bad. Remember this? I do remember it, but I can't remember what the objective was. Today's generation will never know what it's like to wait a month to rent a new movie. The struggle was real. You weren't waiting a month for the movie to come out. You waited a month trying to actually catch a copy being there so you could rent it. Remember playing Mario Kart and thinking you were in first place? Until you realized you were looking at the wrong screen and actually crashing into walls? That's adulthood. Pretty much. Today's kids will never know the struggle of writing down cheat codes. I'm this old. Yes I am. Kids today will never know the pain of destroying your thumb and still having no clue if the battery had power. Whoever came up with this was a genius marketing guy, because they made the battery And then customers would use this and drain the battery, so that you'd have to go and buy more batteries. You know you're old when you remember that, as a child, going to play with the computer meant drawing on paint. And it was awesome. And you always drew one of these, and then filled it in. A Roadrunner's maximum speed is 20 miles per hour. An average coyote can run at 42 miles per hour. Everything in our childhood was a lie. First time I ever saw a real Roadrunner was when we moved here back 10 years ago. And they do run on the ground most of the time, but they can also fly when they want to. Which is also something you never seen Roadrunner do when Wiley was chasing him. Tapping someone on their left shoulder, but being on their right. Is this still a thing with the late millennials and Gen Z? I got one better than this. You ever walk up to your friends and say, "Hey man, you dropped your pocket," and they be looking around on the floor like, "What?" I did this to one particular friend of mine because he would look every single time. But the best part was, in our senior year, I was sitting in class behind him and I happened to look down and his jean back pocket was literally laying on the floor. And I told him, I said, "Man, I'm not kidding. You literally dropped your pocket." But he refused to look because he'd fell for it so many times until I finally got up and picked his pocket up off the floor and laid it on his desk. And he swore up and down that one of us did it to him. I have no idea how his pocket fell off, but that is not a lie. When you see it, you'll know what is an epic win. A lit weekend in the 90s. Regular parents. We have to open schools. What are we supposed to do? Just leave our children alone at home for hours? Parents of the 80s. Only 90s kids will remember these genders. This one actually belongs in my Clown World Chronicle series. Mosh Pit Junior Training Division. What my iTunes used to look like. You literally were not there. Forget LimeWire. Who remembers the original Napster? I'm not talking about the domesticated Napster that came later where you could pay 99 cents for a song, but rather the original Napster. Kids today finds out school is canceled by text. Me had to wake up at 6 a.m. and watch the bottom of the TV screen like an NBA draft. Back in the day when I lived in Indianapolis, they didn't cancel school for anything. I literally stood out the road for 2 hours during a blizzard, and the bus finally showed up. And then I was sick with pneumonia or something the next week. Reading Rainbow. There's people that won't understand this. Star Wars. Master T. Anyone remember his biggest line from those movies? 8-year-old me homesick. Bob Barker in The Price is Right. This was true for kids across 4 decades. Bob Barker just passed away on August 26th at 99 years old. I want a USCM Wayland Yutani Armra M41A Pulse cartridge dispenser. 10mm with over and under 30mm pump action launcher. Don't complain about your research project. This was my Google. My phone just came on when I was reading that. I swear I spent more time looking through these to find the book than I actually did using the book. Barry Manilow wrote, "Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I'm stuck on you, Band-Aid brand, because Band-Aid stuck on me. And you deserve a break today at McDonald's." Everyone should know this. This is something I didn't know. How many of you guys knew about this? When you get to your 30s and stop pretending to care about new music and just enjoy your jams. I'm free. Did people in the 90s really say all that in a bag of chips? Anyone out there have a comment about this one? Because I never heard it. Rewatching childhood memories. Me, a stressed Gen X or millennial, therapist. So when did you start getting violent while playing video games? Me. This is true. I hated that dog. Basic for the Apple II, programming and applications. Hard to believe I once had a phone attached to a wall. When it rang, I'd pick it up without knowing who was calling. It's amazing I'm still alive. Cell phones have pros and cons. I actually didn't get a cell phone until after 9/11 because I was driving that morning and started hearing about it on the radio. I wanted to call back home to tell them to watch the news, but I couldn't until I got where I was going. And I didn't have any quarters on me to use the payphone, so I had to use my calling card instead, which took even longer. My kids. I'm bored. Me. There you go. Problem solved. I don't know who needed this, but this is Sean Astin from Stranger Things with an otter. That's Sean Astin from Lord of the Rings, you fetus. Actually, he's from the Goonies, you millennial trash. It's funny how all generations can connect to the same actor, but yet they're completely different to each generation. I'm 99% sure I never drank water as a child. I drank all of these except for Sunny D. I didn't drink that much. Who remembers these guys? They were super popular there for a while. California Raisins.
California raisins from the California vineyards.
Don't you know that I heard it through the grapevine?
Sounds better than what I got.
Alright, I just played this video with sound a minute ago, but I don't know if I'll be able to leave that in. YouTube might copyright strike that, but anyway, how many of you guys remember the commercials and the songs? They had all kinds of music. They come out with albums and everything. And you want to know what the worst part is? Why they got rid of the California Raisins? Because it was later classified as racist. Even though the singers were people like Michael Jackson, Ray Charles, and a lot of others. There was a fad in the 1950s called booth stuffing, where teens would try to stuff themselves in phone booths. So yes, every generation, kids done a lot of stupid things. And you can just see the adults like standing over there watching it all. Wonder if they ever turned the telephone booth over. Anyone else think a Humongous is one of the most iconic movie villains of our generation? Name that movie. Eggs are bad for you. No, wait, they're good for you. Hang on, are they bad for you again? Just like real butter, they were always good for you. Nutritional wise, eggs is one of the most complete foods you can eat. Just another example of the power of persuasion that government agencies have over people. We used to be a country, a proper country. Pizza Hut today is only a faded memory of its former glory. How many people remember the pizza buffet? Everything old becomes new again. Cracking down on car theft, keeping New Yorkers safe. The funniest thing is, the page that I found where somebody had posted this on, they didn't know what the device this woman was holding was for or what it was called. I've still got one of the originals out in my truck. Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo with Velma had contact lenses. This is true. Time to break out the snow socks. This is why you always saved up the bread bags. How I feel when I talk about the 1980s to anyone under 30. Actually, this is how they view us when we talk about the 1980s. Gen Z is lonely. Percent of U.S. adults who are lonely shown as demographics. Gen X probably has the highest percentage of any of these because this, yet again, is another example of how Gen X has been forgotten. 80s dentist. Good job, Jimmy. Now pick a prize from the treasure chest. Do you use an iPhone or an Android? Me. Metallica 1983 through 1989. Metallica 1991 through today. This Sesame Street Muppet will become the first to experience homelessness. Oscar the Grouch has been living in a trash can for 49 years. While that's true, by today's standards, they would consider that a dwelling because then they could tax you on it. I finally traced my anxiety back to its origins. If you know who this is, your joints hurt in the morning. He was the captain, but some of my joints hurt all day. Remember when they introduced new CD previews in stores where you could listen to or sample the album before purchasing? Yeah, they put these in at one of the places I worked. Some people would stand there for so long and they acted like it was their personal streaming service. A piece that defines a generation. AP Art Final. Why were they a thing in the first place? I have no idea. But I remember drawing them all the time. You knew the album was great if they hit this lean on the cover. Being a millennial captured in one photo. This is the same property. 1999, sold, 162,000. 2023, listed for sale, 1.4 million. Forget about 99 to 23. Try the mortgage rates from 2021 to 2023. Before Disney movies like The Lion King and The Little Mermaid, Disney released this underrated movie. Leave a comment if you know who the owner of this company was. Texting in the 90s. This was the best form of communication. It was also the best game with a piece of paper. My playlist. Also my playlist. This is very true. And the 1980s. Hamburgers ate you. How I feel when I have to scroll down to the year I was born. This is a perfect description. Gen Z thinks they know dance moves from TikTok, but they never learned the best move of all. The perfect cast. This is for millennials, but I did watch this movie. It was pretty good, actually. If you ain't played this in school growing up, you haven't lived life. Now be honest, how many of you cheated and looked at people's shoes so you knew who to pick? Kids nowadays will never know true fear like when your Furby starts singing at 3 a.m. This one here is especially for millennials, but I could imagine. Kids today will never know what it was like to take a ton of pictures and have to wait a week only to find out they were all useless. Pumped enough quarters into this machine to actually buy one. Before we could drive, some buddies and I would hang out at the nearby bowling alley. They would look the other way when we put some money in the cigarette machine, and we respectfully spent hours playing this very pinball machine. Kinda miss those days. My uncle had his own pizza place, and he had a Ted Nugent pinball machine that I played a lot whenever I was there. Whose mom had a knife like this. And when did they ever actually use it? Usually about once a year to cut the turkey. And then it wasn't very good at cutting, so they'd end up getting another knife anyway. We live in the ruins of a greater civilization. This definitely has to be Gen Z, because this is millennial. And if they think that's old, what would they think an Atari controller was? Or better yet, the original floppy disk that Oregon Trail came on. This is how we turned on our computers in the 2000s. Pizza restaurant you'd go to as a kid, starter pack. This goes back to earlier, but still true. Those were the days. 8 a.m., battery 100%. 8 p.m., battery 99%. I still can't believe people thought this was actually a good idea. I agree, I can't believe it either. I think we can conclude that the time out generation did not work out as well as the butt-whooping generation. Reminds me of a song titled Kids That Never Got Spanked by Buddy Brown. If you like country music, you can look him up here on YouTube if you've never heard of him. Common sense. Here lies common sense. We will miss you. Matchbox official collector case. Holds 48 models. Vehicles not included. If you had a full case, you were one of the popular kids. The life of a repo man is always intense. You can't hurt me. You're not the instrumental versions of my favorite 90s hits being played in the grocery store. A couple kids asked me today what it was like for me growing up. So I took their phones, shut off the internet, gave them a popsicle, and told them to go outside till the streetlights came on. If you had one of these, you were cool in school. There were some guys tried to take out the comb and actually put a blade in there, but the spring wasn't really strong enough to carry the extra weight. Anyone want to come over and play computer games? We could order pizza and stay up past our bedtimes. This is for the mid to late millennials. Chuck Norris was here, and he chose scissors. Chuck Norris memes has been overdone, but I saw this one, just couldn't help myself. Teacher, The five senses are sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. Me, I can hear pictures. Teacher, no, you can't. Me, there's a party next door, but judging by the mix of late 90s, early 2000s jams, they'll wrap it up by 10. I take offense to that, but if I didn't have so much work to do and could go to bed when I wanted, it wouldn't be too long after that. For all of you that's still watching this long into the video, I have a few slides left, but I have to share this with you guys. The title of this article is "Old People Are Trolling Young People with This Hack," and the comments are hilarious. And they really are. This is just hilarious. Kids these days will never know the hardships of each week having to overcook a fresh, hard-boiled egg yolk for the computer mouse. Now that part's actually kind of funny, but the people's replies to this post is even better. That was probably the biggest hassle of being a gamer back then. You needed a fresh yolk if you really wanted to compete. Yeah, we really had to do this. It was super annoying. This is why I got into keeping chickens. So true. Thankfully, the mouse manufacturers decided to part ways with the chicken laying companies due to some foul play. The yolk rolled around on the inside, telling the mouse pointer where you wanted it. And then it just gets better. One hack was feeding fish oil to the chickens, a tablespoon every 3 to 4 days, and the yolk was smooth as glass. This was a huge trend amongst the Quake crowd back in the day. Yeah, we used to call those players fish oilers. Takes real dedication, and it just gets worse. My dad used to feed our chickens fish oil, and then would spray varnish on the yolk, back when he was playing Unreal tournaments competitively. I'm going to skip some of this, but here's some of the younger generation replies. Explanation. Why, please? I can't tell if y'all being serious. I legitimately can't tell if this is a meme or serious, and my stupidity on the matter is concerning me. Of course it's real. Come on, if it's a meme, some stupid Karen would have opened her mouth and spoiled the fun by now. You know what? We had to do it, and we didn't complain about it either because there was no other option. You just gotta get cracking and boil another egg. Dang, even Google's not showing this classic trick. I feel old. People complaining they can't find any information about this on Google. Must understand that back in the day, DIYs like this weren't spread around. It's almost like a secret technique that we used till the mid to late 2000s when the yolk mouse finally died. I remember when Newegg.com first started, and it made so much easier to get a fresh one for your mouse. Oh, for flip's sake. And I wondered why the funny name. Now it really clucks into place. Your parents could always tell if you've been up all night playing games because the yolk deteriorates so much faster. This was the days before Steam, so if he deleted the exe file on the desktop in anger, you had to go buy another copy of the game. Y'all think we make things up, but I had trudged to a mailbox to send Netflix back so I could get more Netflix. Things were different, man. Getting the yolk out of the egg without breaking it was always a hassle. My parents taught me the vinegar trick. Super helpful. I have read hundreds of comments and still don't know if this is a meme or not. Are you serious? That's something people did? Man, that's nuts. I was too young when computer mouses were like that to ever see one break. It went to laser track as soon as I remember. Yes, I remember at computer science in primary school. They taught us how to boil them, but first you had to get a permit signed by your parents because you'd be dealing with boiling water. Wait, is this real? Someone please tell me the truth, because it sounds quite unsanitary. I still have no idea whether it is true or not. I just had to share this with you guys because I was cracking up when I was reading these. And not once did I see a comment that said that this was fake or that it was just a meme either. Remember looking for these? Anyone remember what the legend was if you found a Tootsie Roll Pop wrapper that had an Indian shooting a star with a bow and arrow? What you were supposed to get? Bringing back weird memories from elementary school. I don't know why, but this is true. Our version of Disney Plus back in the day. And it was a lot better than the ones I have now. Which is the most ignored generation? Yes. And that's the end of this video, because my voice is giving out. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so, as it's free to you and it would really help to support the channel. I just hit 200 subscribers yesterday, but I need a minimum of 1,000 subscribers in order to send in an application to YouTube for monetization. I love making these videos for you guys and I hope you enjoy them, but in order for this channel to continue, I have to be able to get it monetized. So as I said, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And if you enjoy the videos, please share them on your social media pages or any other method, as that would also greatly help to support the channel. Again, I thank you all for watching. Everyone stay safe and have a great day.